The accused killer of conservative commentator and Turning Point USA founder Charlie Kirk was apprehended on Thursday night after his father recognized him in surveillance photos and turned him in. Authorities have revealed very little about 22-year-old Tyler Robinson, who's suspected of shooting 31-year-old Kirk in the head on Wednesday during an event at Utah Valley University in Orem. In a disturbing twist of irony, Kirk was struck by the bullet during a discussion about mass shootings. He was rushed to a nearby emergency room where he died from his injuries later that day. Surveillance footage showed the suspect arriving at the university in his car roughly 4 hours before the shooting. He ran off into a wooded area immediately afterward and was taken into custody near Zion National Park in St. George, where he was wearing the same outfit that the shooter was seen in when the murder took place. News of Robinson's capture was first announced by President Donald Trump, who praised law enforcement during a Fox News interview and said that he hopes prosecutors will pursue the death penalty. Number 21. Mystery murder victim. While responding to a call last Monday about foul odor coming from a Tesla at a Los Angeles tow yard, police found the decomposing, dismembered remains of a woman in the vehicle's trunk. Authorities described the victim as approximately 5 feet 2 inches tall with wavy black hair. She was wearing a tube top, black leggings, a yellow bracelet, and earrings, but her most distinctive feature was a "shh" tattoo on her right finger. The car, which had Texas license plates, had been impounded 5 days earlier after being abandoned in the Hollywood Hills. It was registered to 20-year-old New York-born singer David, whose real name is David Anthony Burke, and the vehicle hadn't been reported stolen. But the victim remains unidentified and police have not named a person of interest. And while the woman's cause of death wasn't immediately available, authorities are treating the case as a homicide. In the meantime, Burke is cooperating with the investigation despite being in the middle of a world tour. Number 20. Lillian Sellers. 67-year-old Lillian Sellers of Slidell, Louisiana was arrested last Monday after police say she hit a co-worker with her car in their workplace parking lot and claimed the victim had suffered a fall. Surveillance footage of the incident appears to show the suspect violently backing over her colleague outside the rehab facility where they both work, and then exiting the vehicle and calmly cleaning the debris. The unconscious victim was rushed to the emergency room where doctors determined that her injuries were consistent with being hit by a vehicle. Other staff members told police that Sellers had a habit of driving recklessly in the parking lot and that she was believed to be running late for her shift on the day of the incident. Sellers, who did not offer an explanation when police confronted her with a video, was booked into the St. Tammany Parish Jail on suspicion of reckless operation of a motor vehicle, hit-and-run driving causing serious bodily injury, negligent injuring, and obstruction of justice by tampering with evidence. Number 19. Austin Maddox. 34-year-old former Boston Red Sox pitcher Austin Maddox has been sentenced to prison time after pleading guilty in Florida to meeting a minor to do unlawful acts and unlawful use of a two-way communications device. He was busted during a multi-agency predator sting in April 2024 along with 27 other suspects who were accused of trying to meet individuals who they believed were minors for illicit purposes. Maddox, who was already on probation as a drug offender stemming from a 2022 arrest, was taken into custody when he arrived for the planned meeting in Jacksonville. In exchange for his guilty plea, prosecutors dismissed the charge of soliciting a child via computer. He was originally facing up to 5 years in prison, but was sentenced to 3 years with credit for 501 days of time served, followed by 5 years of probation. Number 18. Joseph Thomas Kinney.
You have any weapons right now on you, sir?
I guess not.
What do I do? We'll get what you guys in a minute, man, okay?
Okay.
My car.
An accused scammer was arrested in Volusia County, Florida last Monday after being duped into a staged job interview for a nursing position he didn't qualify for. 55-year-old Joseph Thomas Kinney is accused of fraudulently using his roommate's credentials to work as a nurse after his own license was revoked in 2022 for allegedly stealing drugs from his employer and driving under the influence. Authorities were alerted to his alleged crimes by the manager of a rehabilitation facility where he had tried obtaining a job using his false qualifications. While investigating the case, detectives learned that Kinney was trying to get a job at a different facility, so they sent in undercovers who posed as hiring coordinators. Needless to say, Kinney was taken by surprise when he walked into the interview and was immediately met by law enforcement. Kinney is currently being held in lieu of bonds totaling $25,000 for 2 counts of practicing healthcare without a license, possession of a controlled substance, and possession of a counterfeit driver's license or ID. Number 17. Frank and Maureen Olton. An elderly New York City couple were bound, stabbed, and set ablaze last Monday at their home in Belrose, Queens, where their charred remains were discovered after their son was alerted to the fire. According to police, 76-year-old Frank Olton and 77-year-old Maureen Olton allowed a stranger into the residence to charge his phone, later identified as 42-year-old career criminal Jamel McGriff. He turned on the couple at some point during the visit and spent hours torturing them to death. He then stole the victim's credit cards and went on a spending spree, which included a visit to a movie theater. McGriff was released from prison in 2023 after serving a 20-year sentence for prior offenses. He has 11 prior convictions, including 4 for violent felonies. He had several open criminal cases at the time of the double homicide, but continued to walk free due to the New York State's bail reform policies. During a court hearing on Thursday, prosecutors revealed that the suspect had admitted to killing the Oltons during his arrest. He is being held without bond on 18 charges, including murder, robbery, burglary, arson, kidnapping, and identity theft. Number 16. Yordanis Cobos-Martinez. An undocumented migrant with a lengthy criminal record is behind bars for allegedly beheading his manager at a Dallas hotel. 37-year-old Cuban national Yordanis Cobos-Martinez reportedly became irate with the victim, 50-year-old Chandra Nagamalaya, for having another employee translate during a conversation instead of speaking directly to him in Spanish. Surveillance footage showed him leaving the room and returning with a machete, while Nagamalaya ran and attempted to seek refuge in the hotel's office. The victim's wife and son tried unsuccessfully to intervene as Cobos-Martinez decapitated Nagamalaya, kicked his head like a soccer ball into the parking lot, and then threw it into a dumpster. Police located the blood-covered suspect just blocks away from the scene with the machete still in hand. Cobos-Martinez reportedly admitted to the crime and is being held without bond on a capital murder charge. News reports revealed that he was detained by ICE until earlier this year, when he was released at the tail end of the Biden administration because Cuba refused to take him back due to his criminal history. Number 15. Harold Rashad Dabney III. News reports from the past week have revealed that an Alabama man who's accused of murdering a retired Auburn University veterinary professor walked free just 2 years ago after pleading guilty to misdemeanor charges in an unrelated case. 28-year-old Harold Rashad Dabney III allegedly stabbed 59-year-old Julie Gard Shunuel to death while she walked her dog at Kiesel Park in Auburn. By the time her body was found in a wooded area of the park, the suspect had stolen the victim's pickup truck and fled the scene. Police connected Dabney to the crime the following morning when responding to a call of a suspicious person roughly 3 miles from the murder scene. Shunuel's truck was recovered and Dabney was booked into the Lee County Jail, where he remains held without bond on 2 counts of capital murder. Authorities have revealed limited details about the murder, including what led them to charge Dabney in connection with the case. In the meantime, news of Dabney's previous plea deal has caused many to question why he was spared from prison time in the first place. Number 14. Dominic Michael McBride. A Michigan man is behind bars for shooting a man his ex-girlfriend had called for help after she caught him following her home from the movies. According to police, 22-year-old Dominic Michael McBride trailed the woman and her date 18 miles to a male friend's house in Sumter Township, then opened fire on the friend when he stepped outside to intervene. Officers arrived to find the 40-year-old victim, Michael Tackett, suffering from 2 gunshot wounds. He survived and McBride waited nearby for law enforcement to arrive. Local media outlets announced news of his arrest after his arraignment last week on charges of assault with intent to murder, assault with intent to do great bodily harm, and assault with a dangerous weapon. Tackett is currently in custody in lieu of a $500,000 bond, while awaiting a probable cause conference which is scheduled for September 24th. In the meantime, Tackett remains hospitalized in a medically induced coma and is fighting for his life while friends and community members come together to support his recovery. Number 13. Zaryanna Marshall. A Florida woman is facing a criminal charge for stabbing a man at her homestead residence while they were spending the night together, according to an arrest affidavit obtained by Law and Crime last Tuesday. 22-year-old Zaryanna Marshall invited the victim to her home after connecting with him online. but they began to argue during the visit, and Marshall instructed the man to gather his things and leave. She then started to go through the victim's pockets in search of rolling papers, and the man called her a derogatory term for people with intellectual disabilities. Marshall flew into a rage and stabbed the man in the back with a knife. He later identified her in a photo lineup, and police took her into custody on an attempted murder charge. Following her arrest, Marshall claimed she had acted in self-defense after the victim punched her in the face, but she had no signs of injury, leading police to suspect that she was lying about what had really happened. Marshall was already on house arrest after being charged with robbery in July and has faced criminal charges in the past for domestic battery. She's currently being held without bond, pending the outcome of her case. Number 12. Morgan Chapman. A Kentucky mom who stands accused of leaving her children home alone so she could go smoke marijuana doesn't hesitate to flash a toothy grin for her mugshot following her arrest last Monday. Police responded to the Pikeville home of 23-year-old Morgan Chapman after receiving a domestic violence complaint and were met by the suspect's two unaccompanied kids. A neighbor told officers that Chapman had asked them to watch the children several hours earlier so she could go get high. She returned home while law enforcement was at the scene and claimed that she had only left her kids alone for a few minutes, but she appeared intoxicated and smelled of alcohol. The kids were placed in the care of a responsible party while Chapman was taken down to booking, where she grinned for her now viral booking photo. She was released on bond ahead of her next court hearing, and her ex-husband has since blasted her on social media for not exactly being Mother of the Year. Number 11. Hajir Talebzadeh. A Georgia man with a troubled history of domestic disputes with his ex-wife now stands of killing her and his former mother-in-law during a child custody exchange gone wrong. According to police, 41-year-old Hajir Talebzadeh opened fire on 37-year-old Melissa Qui Domingo and 74-year-old Elizabeth Qui Domingo in the parking lot of a Best Buy store in Augusta, where they had met to exchange their young son. Deputies arrived to find the victims unresponsive with fatal gunshot wounds and Talebzadeh suffering from non-life-threatening injuries, while the child was uninjured. After being treated at a nearby hospital, Talebzadeh was arrested on suspicion of murder, despite his claim that he had acted in self-defense. According to court documents, Melissa suffered years of abuse at Talebzadeh's hands. She had been arrested for shooting him late last year and was cleared of any wrongdoing, after proving to the court that she had acted in a justified manner while fearing for her life. Melissa and her mother were killed just 19 days after the ruling was made, drawing widespread attention to the danger that comes with domestic violence. Number 10. Erwin Zuniga. A wanted man who was mistakenly deported last year after killing 3 people in a drunk driving wreck in Miami has been captured. Erwin Zuniga, who was 26 years old at the time, was going 126 miles per hour in a 40-mile-per-hour zone when he crashed his car into a gas station sign in 2022, killing 19-year-old Paula Sabion, her boyfriend Jason Meza, and his cousin Giselle Reyes. The victims were all riding as passengers in Zuniga's vehicle when the collision occurred. He was charged with 10 crimes, including 3 counts of DUI manslaughter and 3 counts of reckless vehicular homicide, but he was somehow accidentally deported to Honduras nearly a year ago. Last week, federal officials announced that Zuniga had been captured in Spain and that they're currently taking steps to extradite him to the US. The Miami-Dade Department of Corrections reportedly took responsibility for sending him out of the country and has disciplined the officers involved, but officials remain tight-lipped about how the unintentional deportation happened in the first place. Number 9. Mason Ray Rodriguez. A Texas man is in custody after shooting his romantic rival more than a dozen times and attempting to hide the murder weapon. Last Tuesday, the Bexar County Sheriff's Office announced the arrest of 21-year-old Mason Ray Rodriguez, who stands accused of killing 29-year-old Enrique Javier Pereles during an argument at a gathering the previous evening. Pereles died at the scene while the suspect fled and buried the gun nearby. Police tracked him down at a home near the crime scene, where he surrendered peacefully and made statements implicating himself in the shooting. According to a law enforcement spokesperson, Rodriguez and Pereles were rumored to be dating the same woman, leading to suspicions of a love triangle gone wrong. Rodriguez reportedly said he had acted in self-defense, but investigators don't believe this was the case. He was booked into the Bexar County Jail on suspicion of murder, and authorities say that additional charges against other suspects may be forthcoming. Number 8. Hannah Graham. A Tennessee woman has reportedly been released on bond following her arrest earlier this month for pinning a female victim to the side of a gas station with her car during an argument. 19-year-old Hannah Graham was behind the wheel of a Nissan sedan when she and her friend got into a disagreement with the victim. According to police, Graham stepped on the gas and intentionally hit the woman before fleeing the scene. The victim underwent emergency surgery for a broken right femur and is expected to survive. Both she and another witness were able to identify Graham as the suspect in a photo lineup, and police arrested the young woman on suspicion of aggravated assault and leaving the scene of an accident. Records show that Graham was booked into the Shelby County Jail last Tuesday. She was released on Friday after posting a $100,000 bond and is due back in court this week. Number 7. Frank Bright. Less than 6 months after tying the knot, a Hawaii man has been accused of hacking his wife to death with a tomahawk. The incident occurred at the couple's home in Honolulu, where police say 38-year-old Frank Bright delivered multiple chop wounds to 43-year-old Amy Takaki Bright's face, neck, and head on September 4th. During a press conference last Monday, a law enforcement official revealed that officers discovered Amy's body after receiving a call from Bright's landlord, who said that the front door had been left open. His attempts to contact the tenants had gone unanswered despite both Frank and Amy's vehicles being parked in the driveway. According to police, Frank had filed for divorce after just 5 months of marriage, claiming that he and Amy had grown apart. Additional records show that his own mother had filed for a restraining order against him for threatening her earlier this year. By the time Amy's body was found, Frank was already in custody for unrelated charges. He now faces an additional count of second-degree murder and remains behind bars with bond set at $1 million. Number 6. Anthonaya Campbell. More than 2 weeks after being shot in the face in a gang-related shooting at a Bronx basketball tournament, 17-year-old Anthonaya Campbell has died, making her the second fatal victim of the gunfire. Campbell was attending the game with friends in late August when dozens of shots were fired. She was rushed to the hospital in critical condition and continued clinging to life until last Monday, when she passed away from her injuries. The first victim, 32-year-old Jasil Banks, was pronounced dead at the hospital shortly after the shooting. Police are investigating his and Campbell's deaths as homicides, while at least 3 other adults were injured during the violence. 4 suspects have been arrested in connection with the case. 20-year-old David Reyes, 25-year-old Robert Royal, and 2 minors are charged with murder, 4 counts of attempted murder, gang assault, and criminal possession of a weapon. In the aftermath of Campbell's death, one of the attempted murder charges is expected to be upgraded to murder. Number 5. Pedro Linares. Last Monday, Miami-Dade prosecutors announced their intention to seek the death penalty against 57-year-old Pedro Pablo Linares, who's accused of fatally shooting his sister after she evicted him from their mother's house. According to law enforcement, 60-year-old Beatriz Linares Calamita sent Pedro packing due to his lack of financial contribution to the household. Pedro reportedly began showing up at the victim's house unannounced before gunning her down at her workplace in early April. The incident was captured on surveillance video, which showed the suspect arriving at around 5 p.m. and returning about a half hour later after his first attempt to find the victim failed. In the footage, he could be seen shooting Linares Calamita multiple times at close range before fleeing the scene on foot. Linares remained at large until mid-July when he was captured in Louisiana and extradited to Florida on charges of first-degree murder, armed burglary, and assault. The decision to pursue capital punishment against Linares came less than a week after he was indicted on all counts. He remains held without bond while awaiting his next court hearing, which is scheduled for October 1st. Number 4. Snehal Srivastava. A Massachusetts man is facing upgraded charges for the death of 56-year-old Kevin Doherty, who was fatally shot in Shrewsbury in late August after confronting the suspect about graffiti. The victim reportedly saw 26-year-old Snehal Srivastava spray painting the bridge while walking home from dropping his son off at school. According to police, Doherty took a photo of Srivastava, sparking a deadly disagreement that erupted into gunfire. Officers responded to the scene after receiving a 911 call from Doherty, who was found clinging to life with multiple gunshot wounds. He was rushed to the hospital where he died from his injuries, and police launched a manhunt for Srivastava, who was arrested outside his graffiti-covered home. Srivastava was originally charged with armed assault with intent to murder and carrying a firearm without a license. On Friday, law enforcement officials announced that the charges have been upgraded to murder. The accused killer, who has a history of violent arrests dating back to 2015, remains held without bail. Number 3. Jake Hui Quoc Nguyen. The Harris County Sheriff's Office is on the hunt for a killer after a U.S. Marine veteran and Uber driver was found murdered outside Houston earlier this month. According to news reports from last week, 28-year-old Jake Hieu Quoc Nguyen was pronounced dead after being found shot along a roadside. While it remains unclear whether Nguyen was killed at the site where his body was discovered or elsewhere, investigators have discovered surveillance footage which shows him in a car as it exited a nearby apartment complex. They believe the killer dragged the victim to the site and then drove off before crashing the car. Nguyen's vehicle remains missing, and Uber has confirmed that it last heard from the rideshare driver earlier that night after he dropped some customers off in downtown Houston and began transporting the remaining passengers to their destinations. His family is calling on the killer to do the right thing and turn themselves in, and police have appealed to the public for information that could help lead to the suspect's identification and arrest. Number 2. Tom Phillips. Tom Phillips went on the run with his 3 children in 2021 amid a contentious custody dispute with their mother. They spent the next 4 years living in the wilderness, and efforts to find them proved futile until last Monday, when police were called to the scene of a robbery at a farm supply store at 2:30 in the morning. Accompanied by his preteen daughter, Phillips fled the scene on an ATV. The pursuit continued for 20 miles before police disabled the vehicle using spike strips, at which point Phillips shot an officer in the head. Backup officers returned fire, killing Phillips at the scene, and the wounded cop is expected to survive. Phillips' daughter provided key information which led detectives to the decrepit encampment where she and her siblings had been living with their father. The children are now in the care of the authorities while the investigation into the bizarre case continues to unfold. Number 1. The murder of Harold Miller Jr. 3 suspects have been charged in connection with the murder of 48-year-old Harold Miller Jr., who was reported missing in New Jersey after he disappeared while playing cards in mid-June. In a news release on Thursday, the Camden County Sheriff's Office identified the alleged killer as 41-year-old Everton Thomas, while his wife, 41-year-old Sherry Parker, and his son, 22-year-old Deshaun Thomas, are accused of helping him dismember and dispose of the victim's remains. Miller's body has not been found, but investigators believe that Thomas killed him at a residence in Camden, where he was seen entering but never leaving the property. During that time period, Sherry Parker and Deshaun Thomas purchased a chainsaw, containers, trash bags, and other cleaning supplies. The trio were further implicated in the crime using surveillance footage, witness accounts, and forensic evidence. All 3 suspects are charged with 1 count each of desecration of human remains and tampering with physical evidence, while Thomas faces an additional first-degree murder charge. The accused killers were arrested earlier this month and are in custody while awaiting a court hearing.